As the first rays of sunlight bathed the vast savanna surrounding Lake Icy in golden light, the Hadzabe camp was already beginning to awaken. A thin veil of mist still lingered over the low thorn bushes, while the calls of birds signaled the start of a new day. Beside the glowing embers that had burned through the night, the hunters quietly checked their bows and arrows, spears, and the small hatchets they always carried with them. Today's journey was not aimed at the familiar small game, but at two of the region's greatest challenges: a lion patrolling its territory and a herd of antelope that often appear on the open grasslands early in the morning. Once everything was ready, the group quickly left the camp. They moved in single file across the dew-covered grass, making almost no sound at all. The Hadzabe understood that in the wilderness, haste often came at a heavy price. Their first destination was an area where numerous predator tracks had been discovered the previous afternoon. Before long, large paw prints with clearly defined toes appeared on the dry ground, stretching between the bushes. Mixed among them were flattened patches of grass and the drag marks of a long tail sweeping across the earth. Together, these signs revealed that the lion had passed through not long before. The group immediately slowed their pace and spread out to observe from different directions. After tracking the trail for a considerable distance, they spotted a male lion resting beneath the shade of a large acacia tree after its nighttime hunt. Its thick mane stood out against the golden grass, while its eyes remained alert, constantly scanning the surroundings despite its nearly motionless body. No one dared move too close, knowing that a single charge on the animal could become extremely dangerous. The hunters silently used the terrain and the direction of the wind to close the distance. When the opportunity finally came, arrows flew in rapid succession from several different positions. Caught off guard, the lion let out a thunderous roar before bursting from its hiding place and disappearing into the dense bushes. The pursuit continued for hours beneath the increasingly scorching sun. The Hadzabe patiently followed every footprint, every freshly broken blade of grass, and even the tiny drops of blood left behind on the ground. No one showed the slightest sign of impatience, fully aware that a single moment of distraction could give the wounded animal the chance to turn and strike back. After a long and determined effort, the lion finally collapsed in the middle of the open grassland, bringing the day's first challenging hunt to an end. After a short rest to regain their strength, the group continued toward the sweeping grasslands where herds of antelope often graze in the afternoon. A gentle breeze carried the scent of dry grass, while countless small hoofprints crisscrossed the ground, forming familiar trails. The low shrubs also revealed clear signs of feeding, with tender leaves stripped away, leaving only bare twigs behind. The lead hunter quickly identified the herd's direction of travel and signaled everyone to spread out. They moved forward with great care, using every mound of earth and clump of bushes as cover while making sure the wind never carried their scent toward the prey. A few minutes later, the herd of antelope appeared in the open grassland, occasionally lifting their heads to scan the surroundings before lowering them again to graze. They were well known for their keen hearing and explosive speed at the first sign of danger. For that reason, the Hadzabe advanced only when the herd let its guard down. When one mature antelope drifted away from the group and headed toward a patch of fresh grass, a volley of arrows was released at once. The animal immediately sprinted away at tremendous speed, but the hunters calmly followed its tracks and direction of travel across the grasslands. After a long pursuit, the antelope gradually succumbed to exhaustion and finally collapsed, becoming the second successful catch of the journey. By late afternoon, the hunters returned to the camp to the joyful cheers of children and the elders who had been waiting for them. Everyone gathered to divide the game, carefully clean it, and roast the meat over glowing coals. The aroma of roasted meat filled the camp, blending with the crackling of burning wood and the lively conversations that followed a long day of hard work. Children, adults, and elders sat together around the fire, sharing a simple yet deeply meaningful meal. For the Hadzabe, every hunting expedition was more than just a way to provide food for community. It was an opportunity to share the rewards of their efforts, strengthen their bonds with one another, and preserve a way of life that has endured for countless generations.
The year 2026 is often seen as the age of artificial intelligence and smart cities. Yet on the edge of the forest near Lake Eyasi in northern Tanzania, the Hadzabe people still wake up the same way they have for tens of thousands of years. Bare feet on the earth, a wooden bow in hand, listening to the forest before taking the first step. This coexistence is not a confrontation. But it forces us to ask a difficult question: what is progress? And does every society need to follow the same path? The Hadzabe men move quietly into the forest. There is no excitement of conquest, no sense of achievement to prove. They do not hunt to show strength or skill. They hunt because the survival of the community depends on it. In this forest, small animals, familiar parts of the ecosystem, are not seen simply as prey but as links in the cycle of life, a cycle humans themselves depend on. Every arrow is released only after careful observation and consideration. The bowstring is drawn tight. The decisive moment comes quickly and precisely, without delay, without excess. When the animal falls, the group remains silent. No cheering, no celebration. That moment is not a religious ritual but an acknowledgement of a law of life. One life continues because another has ended. In the Hadzabe worldview, hunting is not about dominating nature. It is a harsh but honest exchange, where humans do not place themselves above the environment that sustains them. As the journey continues, they come across a herd of wild buffalo, large and watchful animals that can become extremely dangerous when threatened. The Hadzabe know this animal well. They move carefully, weighing every decision. Arrows are released. When one buffalo is struck, the hunters keep their distance. No one says it out loud, but everyone understands. One wrong step, and not everyone may return. The buffalo runs for a distance before slowly weakening. The Hadzabe move closer, still alert, still cautious. The hunt ends. There is no feeling of victory. Only a heavy silence remains. They do not hunt to win. They hunt to live. The meat is brought back to the camp. They light the fire. Pieces of meat are roasted directly over the glowing coals, then divided into equal portions. No one eats first. No one keeps the best part for themselves. The meal takes place on the bare ground. Children, elders, hunters, and visitors all sit together. Here, eating is not only about easing hunger. It is a confirmation that the community remains whole. The Hadzabe do not ask, "What will we become in the future?" They ask, "Are we still together today?" For many people in the modern world, this simplicity can be surprising. But in the flickering light of the fire, what becomes clear is not a lack of things, but an abundance of connection, something many developed societies are struggling to recover. The Hadzabe have no electricity. They have no data storage systems. Yet they are not known as a community facing long-term social isolation or the chronic psychological crises often seen in industrial societies. They know what they will eat today. They know how long the forest allows them to stay. They know when it is time to leave. For them, that is enough. Meanwhile, the world of 2026 knows many things. Yet more and more people are no longer sure where they are going. The Hadzabe do not reject progress. They simply show that progress is not the only way humans can exist. Some cultures do not grow in a straight line forward, but in depth, rooted in the soil, in the forest, and in the present moment.
However, with changes in the modern At dawn, the vast savanna and open woodland slowly came to life. The first rays of sunlight spread across the grasslands and low shrubs. In the settlement, the tribal group began preparing for a new hunting expedition. They checked their bows, arrows, ropes, and necessary equipment before setting out. Nearby, a leopard started moving around the low bushes in search of hunting opportunities. Farther away, a herd of wild boars left their resting area and spread out across the ground in search of food. Many grazing animals also appeared across the open plains, creating a lively morning scene. After completing all preparations, the tribal group left the settlement and headed into the hunting area. The tribal group moved deeper into the hunting grounds located between the open woodland and the wide savanna. They advanced slowly while carefully observing signs of animal activity. Ahead of them, the leopard silently moved among the bushes and closely watched grazing animals feeding nearby. Several antelopes sensed danger and quickly fled the area. Meanwhile, the herd of wild boars continuously rooted through the soil in search of food and shifted positions around the low shrubs. Many individuals moved back and forth between open patches of land and bushy areas. The tribal group monitored both the leopard and the wild boars, patiently waiting for the most suitable moment to begin the hunt. The leopard continued moving through the open woodland filled with scattered shrubs. It constantly observed its surroundings before changing position to approach areas where many grazing animals were present. The tribal group gradually reduced the distance by using the natural terrain to conceal their presence. Everyone moved carefully while maintaining a stable formation. After some time, the leopard emerged into a more open area among patches of short grass. Bows were prepared, and a brief chase quickly followed. The leopard attempted to escape through the bushes, but was eventually subdued after a short pursuit. After the leopard hunt, the tribal group shifted their attention to the herd of wild boars. Some of the boars gathered around a muddy area and repeatedly rolled in the cool mud. Others rooted through the soil or searched for food around the low shrubs. The hunters patiently observed and selected a suitable target. When one wild boar became distracted while moving around in the mud, the first arrows were used, but the animal still managed to run away. The herd quickly left the muddy area and moved out onto the open savanna. The pursuit continued across the grasslands. When one wild boar appeared in a more exposed area, bows and arrows were used again.
Fall, vegetation, and food sources may also
The
become
hunt ended
scarce.
when the target was finally subdued after a short run. The tribal group returned to the settlement after completing the hunts of the day. Dry firewood was gathered from nearby areas and quickly piled beside the campfire. A large fire was lit in the center of the open space. The wild boar meat was carefully prepared and placed into large cooking pots. Everyone helped with different tasks involved in preparing the meal. Smoke slowly rose through the calm atmosphere of the settlement. Once the food was ready, the members of the tribe gathered together to eat and talk. After the long hunting activities, everyone spent time resting and enjoying the results of their efforts. After the meal, a group of tribesmen left the settlement once again to search for additional food sources. They headed toward areas of soft soil where edible roots commonly grew underground. Using simple tools, they began digging and gradually uncovered many roots of different sizes. After working for some time, the harvested roots were gathered together and carried back to the settlement. At the camp, the fire continued burning with glowing pieces of wood. The roots were placed directly near the hot embers to roast. Their aroma slowly spread throughout the area. Once the roots were fully cooked, the members of the tribe sat together to eat and talk before resting after a long day of activity. The natural environment gradually returned to a peaceful state after the day's activities. Some herbivorous animals continued to move slowly across the grasslands. At the settlement, everyone gathered together to rest after completing their work. Life within the tribe gradually quieted down, bringing a long day to a close.
The sun had just risen above the horizon, casting its first gentle golden rays across the African savanna. Amid this peaceful landscape, I followed the Hadzabe, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer communities still preserving humanity's ancestral way of life. For them, each new day is not merely a journey to find food, but also a test of survival against nature, where even the smallest mistake can cost a person their life. In the small camp, the Hadzabe men sat together around a crackling fire. Silently, they inspected each bow, straightened the bowstrings, and sharpened arrows coated with poisonous sap extracted from the adenium plant. The flickering flames reflected off their sun-weathered faces and the calm eyes of these seasoned hunters. This was a familiar ritual before every hunting expedition, marking the beginning of a day in which the entire community placed its hopes in their skill. When everything was ready, the group quietly left the camp and made their way into the vast savanna. The air was almost completely still, broken only by the soft sound of footsteps brushing against the ground and the distant songs of birds. The Hadzabe studied every footprint pressed into the sand, listened to the slightest movement, and sensed the direction of the wind as though it were pure instinct. They did not hunt with haste, but with patience, for in the wild, opportunities reveal themselves only for a few fleeting seconds. Before long, a troop of baboons appeared in the distance, completely absorbed in foraging. Without exchanging a single word, the hunters lowered themselves in unison and slipped through the thorny bushes like silent shadows. I could hear almost nothing except the pounding of my own heartbeat. Then, in an instant, the decisive moment arrived. At the sound of a brief whistle, the entire group surged forward. Their arrows flew from the bowstrings almost simultaneously, slicing through the air with astonishing speed. Within moments, the prey collapsed onto the savanna. Joy spread across everyone's faces, yet there was no celebration or display of pride. They simply smiled, patted one another on the shoulder, and bowed their heads in respect for the animal that had given its life. To the Hadzabe, hunting is not merely about victory, but also about expressing gratitude to nature for providing the gift of sustenance. After the hunt, the group ventured deeper into the forest. One of the men smiled and said that today would be a day for honey. Those few words alone instantly filled the air with excitement. For the Hadzabe, honey is not only an energy-rich food, but also the most precious gift the forest can offer. They stopped beside an ancient tree with a tiny hollow that was almost impossible to notice. Had I been alone, I would never have imagined that a large beehive was hidden inside. Dry branches were quickly gathered and lit to produce a gentle stream of smoke that calmed the bees. The hunter then carefully widened the opening with a series of precise strikes. As the golden honeycomb gradually came into view, he bent down and placed his mouth directly beneath the flowing honey, calmly savoring it even as bees continued to crawl across his face. The laughter of the children echoed through the forest as glistening pieces of honeycomb were carefully removed from the tree. Thick golden honey flowed between their fingers, carrying the rich fragrance of wildflowers and a sweetness that was deeper and purer than any honey I had ever tasted. In that moment, I understood why the Hadzabe have always regarded honey as a source of life, inseparable from their memories and traditions across countless generations. As dusk painted the savannah in shades of purple, everyone returned to the camp with the rewards of a long day. Baboon meat was roasted over glowing coals beside freshly harvested honeycomb. There were no modern cooking pots or elaborate seasonings, only fire, stone, and hands that had lived in harmony with nature for a lifetime. The lightly charred pieces of meat were brushed with a thin layer of honey, creating a rich, sweet, and unmistakably wild flavor that I knew I would never forget. This night slowly fell. Everyone gathered around the fire, recounting the day's hunt with hearty laughter while the children listened intently, as though receiving their very first lessons about life. Sitting beneath the flickering firelight in a sky filled with stars, I suddenly realized that I had not merely witnessed an ordinary hunt. I had been given the rare opportunity to experience a way of life that has endured for tens of thousands of years. A life in which people continue to live in harmony with nature in its purest and most authentic form.
Dawn slowly breaks over the dense rainforests of South America. Mist still clings to the towering trees, while the calls of tropical birds echo through the wilderness. Deep within the forest, an indigenous tribe quietly begins a new day. This is not an ordinary hunting expedition. Their target is a jaguar, the most formidable predator in the jungle. This hunt is not about proving strength or seeking glory. It is a mission to protect the tribe, as jaguars have repeatedly appeared near their settlement, posing a threat to the people. Join us as we explore how indigenous hunters confront one of the most dangerous predators of the rainforest. The hunters leave their camp before the sun rises above the treetops. In their hands are long bows and arrows coated with poison made from forest plants. They move in a single line, making almost no sound at all. In this forest, every noise carries meaning. A falling leaf, a gently swaying branch, or a fresh paw print pressed into damp soil can reveal the jaguar's location. They stop frequently to observe their surroundings. Large tracks deeply embedded in dry sand suggest that the predator passed through only a short time ago. The tracking begins, and with every step, the distance between the hunters and the jaguar grows smaller. As they move deeper into the jungle, an unusual silence settles over the forest. Monkeys suddenly climb higher into the canopy, and the birds stop calling altogether. These are signs that only people who have spent their entire lives in the wilderness can recognize. The jaguar is close. No one says a word, yet everyone understands. Beyond a thick wall of vegetation, a golden shape marked with black rosettes slowly comes into view. Moments later, the animal climbs onto a large tree and surveys everything around it. There is no fear in its behavior. In this forest, it is the ruler. The hunters know that a single mistake could instantly reverse the situation, turning them from hunters into prey. Without warning, an arrow cuts through the dense foliage and strikes the jaguar as it rests on the tree. Within moments, the poison coating the arrow begins to take effect. Startled by the sudden attack, the animal quickly loses its balance and falls heavily from the tree onto the forest floor covered with dry leaves. The impact shatters the silence, sending the surrounding forest into chaos. Yet the hunters do not celebrate. They carefully approach and move closer to their formidable opponent, offering a final moment of respect to a creature that survived and fought within one of the harshest environments on Earth. Once they are certain the animal no longer poses a threat, the hunters begin carrying their catch back to camp. The next steps are performed with practiced efficiency. They process the animal and separate the meat into portions for cooking and preservation. Without matches or modern tools, a fire is built using knowledge passed down through generations. As the meat cooks over flames, everyone gathers around to share the results of the hunt. No one keeps the food solely for themselves. In this forest, survival depends on cooperation, and every successful hunt benefits the entire community. While the men take part in the hunt, the women continue their daily responsibilities. Mothers walk along forest trails, searching for starchy roots and medicinal plants. Some children collect honey from beehives hidden high in the trees, carefully gathering pieces of golden wax. For the tribe, nature is more than a source of food. It is also a teacher that shows them how to survive. They take only what they truly need and leave enough behind for the forest to regenerate. This balance has allowed them to live alongside nature for countless generations. The encounter with the jaguar serves as a lesson in courage, patience, and unity. The hunt provides more than food. It reminds them that humans have never been the absolute masters of nature. To survive, they must respect every living creature, including the most feared predators. Perhaps in today's modern world, filled with convenience and technology, what we are most at risk of losing is not the ability to hunt, but our connection to nature and our appreciation for the countless forms of life that share this world with us.
As the first light of dawn slowly spread across the low bushes stretching over the Tanzanian savannah, an unusual sense of unease settled around the Hadzabe camp. Along the forest edge, large footprints pressed deep into the dry earth revealed that a fully grown male lion had been roaming near the tribe's hunting grounds for several days. To the Hadzabe people, lions had always been the most terrifying creatures of the savannah, predators powerful enough to make even the most seasoned hunters remain cautious. But as antelope and wild boars gradually disappeared from their familiar hunting areas, they understood that a confrontation with the beast was only a matter of time. There were no loud shouts or modern equipment like those used by hunting teams today. The Hadzabe prepared their weapons silently and without ceremony. They checked their bowstrings, sharpened their spear tips, and covered their bodies with dust to hide the human scent carried by the savannah wind. Their small arrows were coated with poison extracted from native desert plants, ancient weapons that had accompanied their ancestors through countless hunting seasons across the harsh lands of Africa. The hunting party moved deeper through dense dry thorn bushes, where the lion's tracks stood clearly in the fresh soft soil. Several low tree trunks bore long claw marks, while flattened patches of grass showed that the beast had passed through not long before. The Hadzabe moved so slowly that they nearly blended into the surrounding landscape. Every footstep was carefully placed to avoid snapping dry branches or creating unusual sounds that might send birds into panic. In a hunt like this, even the smallest mistake could turn everything deadly in an instant. As they approached an area filled with massive rocks near the forest edge, the group quickly discovered the carcass of an antelope that had not yet begun to decay. Its hindquarters had been torn apart, while the ground around it was covered with huge paw prints and drag marks stretching across the low grass. That was proof the lion was almost certainly still nearby. The atmosphere immediately became heavier than ever. Several hunters quickly climbed onto tall rocks to observe from a distance, while the others crouched low behind thorn bushes, gripping their spears tightly as if preparing for the worst. At that very moment, a deep roar suddenly echoed from the trees. The sound was not especially violent, yet it was enough to freeze the entire landscape in silence. From within the tall grass swaying gently in the wind, the massive male lion slowly emerged. The dark black mane surrounding its neck made its body appear even larger beneath the morning sunlight. It did not immediately flee, but stood still, staring directly at the hunters with cold and cautious eyes. In that moment, the distance between man and the king of the savannah was only a few dozen meters. One Hadzabe hunter on the left began moving in a wide circle to draw the animal's attention. Almost at the same instant, a poison-tipped arrow suddenly sliced through the air and struck deeply into the lion's shoulder. A furious roar instantly thundered across the dry land before the beast charged into the thick bushes. The hunters immediately scattered in different directions, never remaining too long in one position. They understood clearly that a wounded lion was more dangerous than any other animal on the savannah. The pursuit continued for hours beneath the scorching African heat. The Hadzabe did not attempt to approach directly, but patiently kept their distance while silently tracking drops of blood and crushed grass along the trail. The poison from the arrow slowly began taking effect, causing the lion's movements to grow weaker and slower. From time to time, faint roars echoed in the distance like the final declaration of the ruler of the vast savannah. As the sun slowly descended toward the horizon, the hunting party finally discovered the lion lying motionless beneath a large tree in the middle of the barren land. No one rushed forward. They stood watching for a long time to ensure the animal was no longer capable of fighting back. Only when all danger had truly passed did the group slowly step closer. For the Hadzabe people, this was not merely a hunt, but also an act of respect toward one of the fiercest and most formidable rivals in the wild. They returned to the camp to the joyful cheers of women and children. A fire quickly blazed to life in the middle of the clearing, its orange glow reflecting across faces covered in dust after an exhausting day of tension. Songs blended with dancing footsteps and rhythmic drumming that echoed throughout the African night. In that untamed land, the life of the Hadzabe people continued just as their ancestors had survived for thousands of years, relying on hunting skills, perseverance, and courage to endure the harshest forces of nature.
forward and use the
Late afternoon settled over the dry grasslands east of Lake Icy, with the heat still lingering above the cracked earth. There was almost no wind. The last rays of sunlight filtered through the low shrubs, casting a deep reddish glow across the landscape and turning the dry grass golden beneath the fading light. For the Hadzabe people, this was the ideal time to search for water in the vast wilderness. A small group quietly left camp and followed narrow trails winding across the savannah. They skillfully moved through thorny bushes and scattered acacia trees that dotted the land. To most people, this place might seem empty and lifeless. But to the Hadzabe, even the smallest sign left behind by nature carried meaning. The trail gradually led them into a more densely vegetated area. Suddenly, the entire group stopped. Hidden beneath the dry grass lay a grayish-brown mass coiled into thick loops. Its scales reflected the afternoon sunlight, glimmering like metal. It was a massive African rock python. The snake remained almost completely motionless, blending into its surroundings like a fallen branch forgotten in the grass. Instantly, the Hadzabe hunters spread out into a semicircle. No words were spoken. A few quick glances and simple hand signals were enough for everyone to understand. An arrow was placed on the bowstring. Its tip had been coated with poison derived from Adenium obesum, a plant known for its ability to weaken prey over time. Within minutes, the python began to lose its strength. The hunt ended quickly. The valuable meat would provide food for the group in the days ahead. In a city, sweet foods are often little more than snacks. Out here, however, honey is a vital source of energy. Hunting trips can last for hours or even an entire day, so the Hadzabe make full use of the gifts nature provides. They gathered a few dry branches and created a small amount of smoke to drive away the bees before carefully cutting away part of the hive. Thick golden honey slowly dripped into their hands. There was no ceremony and no announcement. They simply broke off pieces of honeycomb and passed them around as naturally as breathing. I was handed a portion as well. The rich sweetness of the honey combined with the soft chewiness of the wax created a flavor I would never forget. No one took more than anyone else, and no one saved extra for themselves. Once the last pieces of honeycomb had been eaten, the group continued on their way as though nothing unusual had happened. Their day did not begin with schedules or packed calendars. For the Hadzabe, every meal begins with a hunt. Studying the tracks left on the ground, the hunters quickly identified their next target, a herd of wild boars. One hunter quietly moved ahead while the others spread out to either side. No one called out or discussed a plan. Brief hand movements and years of shared experience were all they needed. Then suddenly, the boars burst from the brush. An arrow flew from a bowstring. The animal ran a short distance before collapsing. The hunter quickly approached. Genuine smiles appeared across the faces of the group. It was not the joy of victory, but the satisfaction of knowing the entire camp would have a good meal waiting for them. The animal was not taken back to camp immediately. Instead, the meal took place right where the hunt had ended. A small fire was built from dry branches gathered nearby. There were no pots, pans, or elaborate cooking tools. Pieces of meat were placed directly over the glowing coals. As the aroma spread through the evening air, one man began dividing the meat among everyone. They ate with their hands, occasionally laughing when drops of fat fell onto the coals and produced a cheerful sizzling sound. By the time the sun disappeared behind the distant acacia trees, the camp had begun to glow with small fires. Children ran and played among the huts. The adults shared the remaining meat from the wild boar and the python. There were no modern conveniences, only a sky filled with countless stars overhead. Beside one of the fires, a hunter quietly sharpened his arrows in preparation for the next day's journey. Living alongside the Hadzabe taught me something very clear. In this community, the needs of the group always come before the interests of the individual. Survival skills are not learned from books, but passed down through generations of real-life experience. Hunting is not simply a way to find food. It is also the thread that binds the community together. There is no electricity, no internet, and no accumulation of great wealth. Yet they possess something many modern societies are gradually losing: a deep sense of connection and a willingness to share. As I left the small camp behind, the image of those simple huts arranged in a circle remained in my mind. It was there that I came to understand that true wealth is not measured only by material possessions, but by how much people rely on one another to survive and thrive in a vast and challenging world.
Between the pace of modern life, where people are accustomed to comfort and abundance, the Hadzabe continue to exist in a way that feels almost the opposite. They do not rely on technology, they do not store possessions, and they do not separate themselves from nature. Each day is a journey of survival, built on skills passed down through generations. On the dry lands of Tanzania, the forest is not just a place to find food, it shapes how they live, move, and exist. Visiting the Hadzabe is not simply about witnessing a hunt, but stepping into a way of life that makes modern people slow down and reflect on themselves. The morning on the savannah begins in stillness. There is only the sound of birds, the wind rushing past, and soft footsteps on the dry ground. A group of hunters, carrying bows and a variety of arrows, prepares to enter the forest and begin another day. Each arrow is carefully checked, because every type of prey requires a specific arrowhead. Their eyes scan even the smallest traces in the landscape, just before the hunt truly begins. As the journey starts, they follow signs that are almost invisible. Footprints pressed into the sand, grass slightly bent, or the fresh scent of animal droppings. To the Hadzabe, the forest is like an open book where every mark tells a story from minutes or hours before. Along the way, small opportunities suddenly appear. A sound in the bushes can make the entire group freeze instantly. It could be a python, a dangerous leopard, or any creature large enough to become a meal. When the moment comes, they spread out and quietly close in, guided by instincts shaped since childhood. An arrow is released and hits its mark. The prey is quickly pulled from the brush, ending a short but skillful hunt. Under the blazing sun, the air seems to stand still. The hunters, bare-chested and lean, move silently like shadows. The prey is close now. Every step becomes more deliberate. The thick bushes ahead begin to tremble, a sign that cannot be mistaken. The animal bursts through narrow paths, breathing hard like a survival machine pushed to its limits. An arrow is fired, and it lands perfectly to... In this forest, humans are not the only hunters. At times, nature reveals unexpected encounters between different species along the same path. These moments are a reminder that the savannah is a place where every living creature must fight to survive. The Hadzabe diet, wild plants, roots, honey, and hunted meat, creates a rich and unique food culture. What has drawn the attention of scientists is their gut microbiome. Research shows it is far more diverse than that of people living in urban environments. Hundreds of bacterial species coexist, shifting with the seasons and diet, like a living ecosystem inside the body. No processed food, no refined sugar, minimal use of antibiotics, just nature. And their bodies respond accordingly. Resilient, adaptable, and remarkably flexible. As the day comes to an end, Everyone gathers around the fire in a familiar quiet. The cooked meat is torn apart by hand and passed around. No one holds onto their share for long. In the flickering firelight, the meal is not just the result of a hunt, but a moment of sharing and connection after a long day. What makes the Hadzabe truly remarkable is not just their hunting skills, but the way they live in harmony with nature. While modern people are used to controlling and storing everything, they choose to read the forest, understand it, and adapt to it. As the sun sets over the savannah, their day ends simply. They have walked, hunted, eaten, and lived. And perhaps that is what makes us reflect. That living well is not always about having more, but about knowing what is enough, sharing with others, and appreciating what we already have.